The bullpen implodes once again for the Cubs as they drop the first one in San Diego, but fear not, we have a pitching breakdown on the guy that I think needs to step up with Justin Steele out. We'll have that and some sound from Counsell on this edition of the Cubs Daily Podcast. Some news off the top for you. Counsell said pregame that he expects both Carson Kelly and Seiya Suzuki to return by Friday with the hope that both can return before then. Carson Kelly got hit on the hand by a pitch in Sunday's contest. Kind of a scary moment, one of those you see and wonder if something is broken, but thankfully the x-rays were negative. Suzuki's wrist pain originated on a slide in the home opener against the Rangers. He was removed from Saturday's contest in Los Angeles due to discomfort in that wrist. Suzuki has run into oblique issues in the past, so I actually think it's a positive that it's not related to that. Carson Kelly has the highest weighted runs created plus in Major League Baseball entering Monday, minimum 30 plate appearances, above Kyron Paris of the Angels and Aaron Judge of the Yankees. Kelly will surely fall back on that list, but for now, it's what we call a fantastic leaderboard in the sports media business. Today's game in San Diego felt a lot like San Diego last year, where the Cubs were clearly the better team for 5 innings until the bullpen comes up and gives it away. No need to pile on Nate Pearson here, but in a leveraged spot, to say he struggled to find the zone was an understatement. He entered the game in a tie game in the 7th and exited with the Cubs down 3 runs and 1 out recorded. Merriweather was likely down after pitching back-to-backs. Ethan Roberts pitched 2 of the last 3 and was still used today after Nate Pearson in a game that was already out of hand. Caleb Thielbar also probably down. Unsure the status of Porter Hodge and Ryan Presley for Monday's game, that is. But I'd assume Counsell was thinking at least one of them for the 8th. Maybe both of them, 8-9, both of them pitched back-to-backs. This was kind of just one of those next man up for the 7th inning based on the construction of the pen, and it backfired. Great bullpens like the Padres, which we've seen, have guys who are good in those spots where other relievers are not. So here's Craig Counsell post-game on the bullpen collapse alongside an update on Eli Morgan, who left the game with a trainer in the 8th inning.
We had a bad night tonight. So that's how I see it. We just had a bad night tonight. Brad threw the ball very well, and we missed an out there, and then they got some fortune on their side, they had some luck on their side, and that hurt us there. And then from there on, we didn't throw the ball great. Well, he was having some right elbow issues, we're gonna have to see how he feels tomorrow, and then see what that means.
Michael Busch had a huge home run off Dylan Cease, a slider hanging over the plate, very similar to the April home run he hit last year off Dylan Cease. He also had 2 nice plays in the field, probably the leading candidate right now for NL Gold Glove at first base, with Christian Walker moving to the American League. Pete Crow Armstrong, another 3-hit game, back-to-back 3-hit games for the first time in his career. He had a big 1-out double in the 4th to pad the Cubs lead a bit more, but it ultimately came up short. Jameson Taillon goes 5 1/3, 3 hits, 2 earned, a walk, and 4 strikeouts, and he is the subject of our pitcher breakdown today. Instead of moping about another bullpen-blown game by the Cubs, let's do something I love doing, which is talking pitching. And the way I approach these pitcher breakdowns is usually to split by hitter-handedness. Really important to do this because pitchers use different pitches and different usages to lefties and righties. We'll start with Taillon's righty approach, which has changed from 2024. The high-level overview here is that he throws 3 fastballs in a sweeper, mostly four-seam fastball away. He throws some sinker inside, also cutter away, and then a big sweeper, usually for chase off the plate. In 2024, he threw his four-seam, sinker, and cutter around an even percentage of the time to righties. This season, he's leaned really heavily on his four-seam fastball, almost doubling the usage, and backed off his sinker. Now, why would he do this? I don't actually know. Last year, his sinker was a pretty good pitch. It allowed the highest ground ball rate in his mix to righties. It didn't really miss bats, but it wasn't barreled a lot. I thought it had utility in his mix, but it seems as though he thought otherwise. And the result here has been a different Taillon compared to years past. He's become a higher variance pitcher, in my opinion, with the amount of bats that he's missing jumping up, which is really important, but he's already allowed 5 barrels to righties, which is elevated from the prior season. The funny thing here is that literally all 5 of those barrels, including a home run to Fernando Tatis Jr. today, were on cutters or sweepers middle of the plate. Basically, he missed his location on all these pitches and hitters took advantage. So just don't miss your location right. It's that easy. Totally fair, but misses are somewhat inevitable even for the best pitchers in baseball. And this is a galaxy brain idea of mine here on Taillon, but I wonder whether the lack of sinker usage is causing hitters to key in a bit more on these misses over the middle of the plate. Less sinker, less pitching inside for Taillon, perhaps more damage out over the plate. Maybe these things are connected, maybe they're not, but it's something that I instinctually go to when I see something like this happen. So the thing to watch here for me is how much sinker he uses to righties as the season progresses. Was the elevated forcing fastball usage to righties early this part of the season due to weather, due to just wanting to get ahead, throwing strikes, the offense is putting up runs? There's a lot of variables here that make it tough to be definitive, but it is what I'm watching in Taillon's righty approach as he progresses into the season. Versus lefties, Taillon is mostly four-seamer away to up in the zone. He throws his cutter away, which is mostly a backdoor pitch for him, trying to steal strikes, induce weak contact. And then he throws his curveball down and inside. This year, we see a few new things compared to last year. Mostly that he's throwing his four-seamer inside occasionally, moving it around, which I like a lot. This is something he basically didn't do at all last year. He also has a new changeup, a kick changeup, as the broadcast, Boog and JD and Sutcliffe today have said. Sure, we're making up new pitch names. We do it all the time on the data side. Baseball is a sport of marketing. But this is a pretty cool pitch. The idea is basically that guys who couldn't create depth on changeups in the past can now do so by spiking a finger on their changeup grip, generally the middle finger. It seems odd, but think of the old spike curveballs that Craig Kimbrell and others threw on the Cubs back in the day. That was kind of a pitch that became a virus and spread around the Cubs and the rest of baseball. The idea is basically that by spiking a finger, in the case of the curveball and this changeup, that you're getting that finger out of the way so the pitch can move optimally. That is a kick changeup, and that is the intent behind what Taillon is trying to do. He's spiking the finger on his changeup so he can pick up more drop. He's also throwing fastballs to lefties more, and I think I kind of understand this tweak if you're telling me he's moving it around, whereas versus righties, I don't really understand it as much. The results versus lefties too, with more four-seam moving it around, the changeup, his barrel rate is down in this small sample, and his swinging strike rate is just about even or slightly up. So both pretty encouraging signs. So that's what I have on Taillon right now. I'm a bit concerned that there isn't enough sinker on the righty approach, but I love the evolution of his lefty approach. And perhaps as these things even out as the season goes on, this is how you actualize that potential and get him to push over the projected 4.28 ERA he has rest of the season. I think the main thing that's underselling him in that projection is the increase in potential strikeouts to left-handed hitters, due in part to that lefty tweak. We just got to watch the barrels versus righties, and I imagine Taillon and Casey Jacobson, assistant pitching coach, and Tommy Hotovy are all aware of these things. This week on Marquee Sports Network, we have a lot going on. I'll be releasing my top 30 prospects in chunks of 10 starting on Tuesday with 30 through 21 and culminating on Thursday, which is our first Road to Wrigley Live of the season at 6 p.m. Myself, Elise Menaker, Jim Callis, Alex Cohen, we'll all be in there. We'll all be live. We have some really fun stuff planned. I have a deep dive coming on Cade Horton, which I'm really excited to release. I'm very excited about him this season, which you may have heard on yesterday's podcast when I talked about acquisition pieces and other guys who could potentially step up in the wake of the Justin Steele injury. As always, check out the Marquee Sports Network app, marqueesportsnetwork.com, all of our social channels. And if you like this podcast and you somehow made it to the end, give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you are listening. As always, thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow for the second game in San Diego as we just about are done with this West Coast trip.